Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And today we're going to tell you how we felt about Batman The Long Halloween Part 1, doing our traditional reviewing of the DC direct-to-video animated movies whenever they came out. Whenever they come out, we have missed one. There is a Justice Society one.
Deathstroke.
Yeah, I don't know if that counts as part of this line. There's a few of these here and there that we haven't, that you and I haven't done it together, because they're not technically part of that same line, so we just haven't bothered with them.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what that. I just didn't care.
Yeah, no, I know you didn't. But anyway, the Justice Society one we planned on doing, and then we had a hard time getting together. I was out of town, and some other things happened.
And we said if this one came out first, we'd do this one because people would care.
Because more people were going to care about this, yeah. So we decided that, in fact, I thought we were doing Justice Society today, and then I found out that this had released already, because I knew it was out in digital, but usually digital comes out 2 weeks before physical, and either digital's been out and I didn't hear about it, or they both dropped simultaneously, and that's what, somebody told me that today, that they both came out at the same time, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I hope that's what they start doing.
Yeah.
If that's what it was.
Well, I remember before
that drives me crazy. I only ever review. We've always done this. We've always said this. People will be like, "How can you haven't reviewed that yet?" We only review these when they come out physically because I was by them, and I'm not going to double dip and buy digital and then come back and have to do this.
Well, I remember before they used to. Do you remember when people on YouTube used to do reviews like 2 weeks before, but they weren't dropping digitally?
Yeah.
They were leaking.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like the dropping digitally was to like counteract that. Like you just have it.
Maybe.
That's how I always felt.
So it might
maybe
be
piracy's just down now.
Or
so
not enough people care about these. But I don't know.
I mean, the numbers are dropping.
Are they? Are they?
Oh, well, I don't know about like specifically, but like I know that the line just goes like this if you look on a flow chart.
Yeah, that's true. But anyway, so in The Long Halloween in June.
In July.
Immediately, my first big issue with this is just that it's not coming out on Halloween. I hate that. I think that's a mistake. It's kind of sad.
If you're doing two parts, do it, August or September, and then the second part too. At least get to that fall season.
Yeah. It'd be fine if you release the first part in August or September and the second part releases in October. I just want one of these to come out in October.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I appreciate... Well, we'll talk about this. To some degree, I appreciate that we're doing the two movies thing with this, because I can kind of see how it might warrant that, but I also kind of think you could do it all in one movie, and having watched it now, I feel like it is a little bit stretched out, which was a fear that I had with it. But yeah, even if you're going to put them out in such rapid succession like this, which is nice. I mean, it's nice that you don't have to wait a long time between them. Because I feel like it was longer between Dark Knight Returns.
I'm pretty sure it was 6 months.
Was it that long?
Maybe it was like 4. It's the standard wait between animated movies, like maybe 3 or 4 months. I don't remember.
They've been pumping these out.
They have.
They've been putting out so many more of them.
We had a month where we couldn't record, and in that time, this came out.
And Justice Society had just come out.
And the next one's coming out in another month.
Yeah. So it's hard for us to keep up with these.
Yeah.
So anyway.
But then is there not one for the rest of the year?
I'm not sure.
Because I think there's only 3 a year, right? They're not doing more than 3 a year now. Because they used to do 3, right?
They used to do just 2, I thought. And then sometimes there'd be some like extra random one that was made by other people. It used to be
there was the 2 and then like the Bruce Timm one.
Some other thing. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and Soul of the Dragon came out this year too, didn't it?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
This is unnecessary. These aren't good enough to warrant this many. Like, if they were all, like... Well, I mean, I guess we've liked the last couple. But
now, how much of it... And this is going to be a question we're going to find ourselves asking about all kinds of things for the next 12 months or more. How much of it was COVID, though? How much of this was stuff that was delayed that was supposed to come out before that has now finally been finished? Is it that?
Maybe.
Because I read somewhere that this was supposed to be the first movie in the new line post... the New 52 series.
But the movies that came out after were finished before COVID.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, COVID wouldn't have affected the production. Well, I don't know. Maybe it went into production first because it's 2 parts.
Yeah.
Were they not originally intending to do 2 parts? Is that what changed?
I feel like it
was announced as 2 parts.
It was announced as 2 parts, yeah. So I don't know. But let's talk about what we have, shall we?
Sure.
So we've got the first part of Long Halloween. It covers more or less the first half of the 13-issue miniseries. Is it a little bit? Is it a little bit shorter than that?
Oh, you know what? New Year's counts as
January. Because it does get us to New Year's.
Yeah. So I guess that is the first.
It's about the midpoint.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's close.
Yeah.
Anyway. if you have read Long Halloween, you have sort of seen this story, although it is going its own way in places, and there are some weird random added scenes that don't do a lot for the story and don't have too much to do with what's going on.
I felt like later we're doing the character stuff that like isn't in the book.
Yes, and I do appreciate that.
I think there's a possibility that when this is all done, this will be Under the Red Hood.
You think so?
I think it's possible.
Okay.
I think the beginning drags.
Yeah.
But I also think I'm more with this movie than you are altogether.
I'm having pacing issues with it.
And I didn't have that except for in the beginning. I think the beginning took forever.
I'm conflicted because I like how moody and atmospheric it is, of course. And I
don't like that it doesn't look anything like Tim Sale's art.
Yeah.
They didn't even try.
I want to like that it's taking its time in... See, I don't even say downtime, really, because, I mean, it doesn't really have that. I mean, the whole thing is... I mean, there's a lot of like really talky scenes and stuff, but it's not like people just going about their business. I mean, it's always about the mystery.
Mm-hmm. Except for that random action scene that can be cut entirely, that isn't from the book and isn't.
We really want kung fu stuff here for no good reason.
It's too much of a detective story. We need an action scene, so Batman's going to go to Chinatown for no reason to fight some kung fu guys for no reason. Unless that's part of
pays off in some
way.
Which is strange.
Part of my thing with this is I can't really judge how much of the character stuff that they've added is a waste of time versus...
Until you know where it's going.
Until I know what the second half is.
Yeah. And that stuff I didn't really feel like was a waste of time. When I was talking about added scenes, I was mostly just talking about the Chinatown scene, I suppose.
Yes.
But I do feel like there are scenes that kind of linger and take too long because it feels like it's padded so that it can be two movies. It's an awkward thing because I think you could adapt Long Halloween pretty close to the source material. You'd maybe have to truncate a few things here and there in a 2-hour movie. It's harder to do in 85 minutes. So I get why this is 2, but I kind of wish we could split the middle and they could finally make one that's just 2 hours, because I feel like that would be the perfect length.
Yeah, just release it like Dark Knight Returns. And I'm sure they will do that, right? Like we will. Although have they done it with Superman?
I don't think they did it with Death. Okay, so Death of Superman has, and I've got it. They've got the box where they put both of them out. And they called it Death and Return of Superman. But
is it still 2 discs?
But I haven't opened it up. I don't know if it's both movies in one box or if they made it one movie like they did Dark Knight Returns. Because they did a seamless version of it with Dark Knight Returns, which is nice.
But that also is more 2 halves. Like that really is 2 movies as opposed to this or Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, this is exactly like Dark Knight Returns.
Yes.
In the way it stops and.
Yes. I like this. Okay. I have to see the second half. Like that's really the thing. Is I thought it's all right. I like the art style. I don't like that it's not Tim Sale. Like I don't know what the point of this is. We can't tell whether this is a new continuity or not, because it didn't seem like they were doing a new continuity. But
he means with the other movies.
Yeah, with the other movies. Because if this is the first Batman story in a new Batman continuity, I'm fine with just coming up with these like generic designs. Not generic in a terrible way.
And they look good.
They look good. But if this is standalone...
You said if these were the designs for a new animated series,
we'd
all be stoked.
Except
and I
for
agree.
The Joker. I don't like his design.
He's okay. That seems like a place where they're sort of half trying to do the Sale thing.
Yeah, but then like not doing the things that work about that design.
But maybe they're thinking with... So, I don't know. I read somewhere, I can't remember where, that this is supposed to be a continuity now, but that's conflicting with other things I've looked at. Like, I thought they were just making movies now.
If this is the beginning of a new continuity for Batman movies, I'm fine with these designs. If this is standalone, there is no excuse.
There's no excuse. Designs. Yeah, it's weird. Because at least with Dark Knight Returns, like, that's not Miller... But it's more stylized.
Well, and everyone's big. Like, it's got that Miller thing. It's not as... Because I don't think you can adapt Dark Knight Returns visually without it being...
Too simple?
No. Like...
Too sketchy?
Like, avant-garde. Like, you would have to do a weird thing to make that book... Or make an animated film that looks like that
Because those aren't pictures that were intended to move. And I feel like Sale's characters could...
Yeah, like Sale's characters look like they could sit in like Invader Zim. Like I've definitely seen designs that have the shape that he has.
Well, it's kind of that Bruce Timm thing, right? Where I'm not saying that his art looks like Bruce Timm, but it's simpler, more like flat 2D art that looks almost like it's meant to be rendered. Like I feel like because we've seen a lot of these adaptations where it's like, yeah, I get it. It would be really difficult to take exactly that
like
design.
All-Star Superman. Like, I don't know how you do that in animation.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know how you take Frank Quietly's art to animation. Tim Sale's feels very animatable.
But Sale, I was going to say Sale is like Mike Mignola. Like that's art that I could see animated.
Well, and they did it with like, I think McGinnis is probably their most successful, right? Batman Superman, like,
yes,
in like translating and like,
sure, because that already looks like a Saturday morning cartoon in the first place.
Yeah, and so like if this is the beginning of a Batman continuity, I'm fine with these designs. I actually really like how the Batman looks.
Yeah, you too. And the Catwoman too.
But if this is standalone, I don't know why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Design-wise.
Well, I was going to suggest that, and again, we just don't know, and we'll have to see when things start crossing, if this is in the same universe as Man of Tomorrow. It's got similar animation. I could see these.
It's got that same kind of flat design
and the black outlines around
everybody.
Yeah. Like
they look like drawings.
I could see these characters intermingling with those characters.
Mm-hmm.
But I was going to suggest that if this is its own continuity, the characters that they're trying to get a little bit closer to Sale with might be characters that they're not planning on doing in a lot of other movies. I can see that with Joker, where it's like, we do Joker in everything, he's got to be in this because it's Long Halloween, but we can kind of take more liberties and make him look a little bit more like it did in the book, because we're not planning on doing a lot of things with him. Or Joker's an easier character to just reinvent every time.
Well, and that, I mean, it's also weird for Joker because, like, you say that, but like, when was the last time we did the Joker? Because he wasn't in any of I guess, is he in Hush? Is that his only appearance in that continuity of films?
Maybe so, and that's why I'm saying maybe they're thinking we're not planning on doing the Joker in anything.
Again, yeah, I don't know. I don't like this Joker design. It's
I don't
Troy
like
Baker.
his voice either. It's Troy Baker,
yep.
And he's usually good.
He's just doing Mark Hamill, and
he's always had a little Hamill in it, but he's always kind of made it his own. And I don't like his laugh, and he's Troy. He sounds like a fanboy doing a Mark Hamill impression.
It does. It sounds like all of those YouTube videos of like, look how good I can do the Joker because I can do a Mark Hamill.
Were you shocked like I was to find out it was
Yes.
Baker?
I was sitting right next to you. I was like, it was Troy Baker?
Yeah.
Jensen Ackles.
Well, I know you pointed it out, but I didn't know if you were shocked, because I was like, I don't think I've ever criticized a vocal performance from Troy Baker.
No. And he's done the Joker before, and I've not had a problem with it.
He's the only actor who's ever voiced Batman and Joker in the same thing, and he's always good.
What was that in?
I can't remember. I knew you were going to ask me that. I can't remember.
Is that Hush?
It was a thing. No, I think it might have been a Lego movie. I can't remember. But he's done it. He's done it before.
Okay. But yeah, Jensen Ackles.
Unless I'm thinking of somebody else,
good.
but I'm pretty sure it's Baker that's done Batman and Joker.
To like him.
Yeah.
Because even like whenever I go back to
I like Jensen Ackles really a lot, because he disappears and I can't tell it's him.
Yeah.
I never heard his voice in this, and he sounds completely different than what he did with Red Hood. It's wonderful.
And going back, whenever I go back
Red
to
Hood
Red
was like a young adult, like I was just a teenager. This is like a 29, 30-year-old Batman.
It's been over 10 years.
And he does a real deep Batman voice, and it doesn't sound like he's having to force it, but like he's got a tenor voice usually.
And that's the thing I was gonna say is whenever I go back
got a vocal range I didn't know he had.
To Red Hood, it really sounds like a kid putting on a voice when he does the Red Hood voice. I don't think his Red Hood voice is very good.
Oh, do you think?
I think that's aged poorly.
Okay.
Or it was always bad, and I was just too young to know this. But like, I don't think his performance in Red Hood is particularly great. He has improved as an actor, or he is a better fit for Batman. I don't know which. But he's a good Batman. I like him. Again, I'm fine if this is the beginning of Batman continuity. I'm fine with him as our Batman for these DC animated films.
Yeah, it'd be cool if he kept going.
But yeah, this is really difficult to talk about in a way that I think is different than Dark Knight Returns or even Death of Superman, because I mean, spoilers, kind of like the ending is different, or the ending of this movie is different from what happens at that point in the book,
which really makes you wonder how different the ending of the whole thing is going to be, and we just don't know yet. Can I say that I was not really engaged with this movie until the last 10-15 minutes? and like now I'm really curious to see where it goes, and I'm kind of into it. But it
Well,
took the whole movie.
But
like I was liking it for atmosphere, okay, but I just kept waiting for it to justify his existence. Where I was like, this feels very obligatory. This exists because it's one of the 3 Batman stories that anybody can name. We've already done Killing Joke, so now we finally have to do, like, we've done Dark Knight Returns. We finally have to do Killing, or we finally have to do Long Halloween. It took this long, and it's in June. I'm just gonna keep mentioning that. It drives me crazy. But then by the end I was like, oh, okay, they're trying some different things, and they're thinking about ways they can actually improve the material, and that's what I was waiting for.
But I think part of it is kind of unfair, because I think we were both kind of sitting here going like, well, that's a weird choice if the ending's the same. Well, that's a, like, we were kind of picking at it, and maybe, I think it's very possible this watch is much better on a rewatch, especially if the second one is better.
Probably so.
Because I think we were both just sitting here being like, yeah, we both know this story, like, oh, there's an extra scene there, like, who cares? And then, like, as it keeps going, you're like, okay, you really are doing your own thing, and maybe improving on the material, as opposed to something like Gotham by Gaslight, where it's just a... This isn't like Red Sun or Gotham by Gaslight, where it's a completely different story with a similar premise.
Or at least so far.
Yeah.
But some of these things have sort of started in a place where it seems like the same thing. Like Red Sun sort of had this, and then 20 minutes later, you're like, oh, it's a different story, and it's not a very good story. In that particular case, it could be that the second half could be way different than the rest of the movie, because we don't have all of it, right? So
well, and I also think that the story is flexible enough. Like, we know that all the villains, because they cameo in, there's like voice cameos of the villains that are in the back half of the story, so we know they're there.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the same villains, but like,
and that's cool.
As long as there keeps being murders on the holidays, and we're using most of the same players, like, it could still be that story, but different.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's not a particularly great comic book. Like,
I don't think it is either.
Like this is the thing we ran into with Hush, where like if you love Hush, I completely understand why you hate that movie.
Of course.
But I don't care for Hush. And so I'm fine with the ending change.
And I was refreshed. I found it refreshing that we did something different with it, and I didn't just have to experience that same story again. And there was a self-awareness about it where it didn't feel like... I mean, it had reverence for the material, but in the superficial way that I think a lot of people do, where it's like, there was a novelty to getting to see the whole Rogues Gallery in a book like that, and Batman and Superman dealing with each other the way they do in that book, and just the art style and all of that. Like, it had reverence for that. That also doesn't look that much like that book, but
no, but that's the only reason to do that book.
But it had, I just thought of that, but it had reverence for the stuff that I think people most remember about that book, not brilliant story stuff, because it's not a great story.
And this is similar, although I like Long Halloween more than I like Hush.
Me too, but people talk about Long Halloween like it's a brilliant story, and I thought it was for a long time too, until I went back and reviewed it with Eric a few years ago, and we were like, oh, the ending doesn't work, and it cuts some weird
and there's a lot of other stuff that
yeah.
Where, like, it doesn't, the month to month didn't work, where it's like cliffhanger and then the next issue takes place a month later, and we're just now picking up on what happened a month ago,
and there were details that retroactively at the end just didn't fit. It just
and we've already dealt with
together.
One of the
and the people making this movie clearly know that.
I don't know why I'm trying to
at the end of this first part, so I am appreciating that they don't seem to be just adapting it wholesale.
Okay, so I'm going to say this, which is a spoiler for the book, but not the movie.
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
Because it's Gilda at the end of the book, maybe, kind of.
Yeah.
The biggest problem
it's ambiguous and it doesn't work, and
yeah, and it's terrible. And the biggest problem with it being Gilda, like when you go back and track
she physically couldn't have done every kill
because she's in the hospital from Thanksgiving to Christmas, like in the hospital. And the
other thing that makes it not
and
work,
she's not here. We specifically have her not in that. I'm stuttering. Say what you were going to say. And then I will get to my point.
Sure. The other big thing that made it that made Gilda weird and not make a lot of sense by the end of that book is just that or maybe not make sense, but we just but it was just kind of, I don't know, laid on too thick and too easy. Was we didn't spend enough time with her in that book,
and we are rectifying that.
We didn't really appreciate her motivations and stuff, and here we're giving both her and the original red herring, who may or may not have been also the killer,
Alberto, who Victory treats like the killer.
Also,
Alberto's also given more backstory,
also giving him more motivation, and I'm appreciating both of those characters more. And then the way he's handled by the end of this is quite a bit different.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see where it goes.
Me too.
What was the thing I was going to say when I was trying to? Because I was like, I want to bring this up because it's an interesting point about, and now I can't think of it.
Sorry.
I'm sure I'll remember the second the camera turns off. But there was something I was going to say about it being different.
And about it being Gillet at the end originally.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, so it's doing things that fix problems with the original story. Oh, sorry. I know what it is now.
Okay, cool.
This is doing a thing that I never know how I feel about, which is, so one of the things I hate the most when you adapt something is when you change it and you say the reason you change it is so the comic/book reading audience can be just as surprised as the viewers.
This is the Todd McFarlane thing.
Is that a Todd McFarlane thing?
Yeah, he always said with Spawn, like, he wanted to tell a completely different story every time he adapted it, so that people weren't reading the same story over and over again.
Yeah, but
it's kind of that thing.
I guess that makes sense, but like those aren't great stories, so like who cares?
Yeah.
But no, my big go-to, long before I'd ever read Walking Dead. Like I remember when Walking Dead came out as a show, and I hadn't read the book, and I wasn't watching the show, but like it was part of the just general comic news cycle. They said like, well, we're changing things so people in the comic readers can be surprised with the audience. And my immediate reaction is, but you are robbing the television audience of the already proven good stories and twists. Like you're just...
That's the catch-22 with it.
Yeah.
Is there are people that will never read the book, and so you're not really presenting it to them.
Yeah.
But then
I have that problem with a lot of adaptation.
But at the same time, as a comic reader, if it's adapted really well, if it's changed and the story is just as good or better, I do find myself really appreciating that. So I have to kind of take it case by case.
But so like, there's a thing that
I don't think I can make a blanket statement rule. You should always make it the same or always make it different.
But there's a thing that and there's also like adaptation from Medium, which is the most overused excuse, where it's like, we changed this because it's for television. It's like, okay, but how does that make it better for television? You just change something. It doesn't actually help.
But then there are examples where you do need to change things because there are choices you'd make in a certain medium that you wouldn't make in another, and then that becomes that year one problem.
Yeah, but one of the things I'm always conflicted on when we do something like this, where it's maybe I don't know how I feel about playing games with the audience, because that's what watching this movie feels like, is trying to figure out what are they doing,
and that's because there's precedent with these, where like Hush did that to us, and Gotham by Gaslight did that to us, and so from the very beginning, I'm like, okay, who's the red herring, and is it the person that it was in the original, and then who's the actual killer going to be? Because they're going to change it. And now I'm not totally sure.
Well, because it's completely kind of gone off the rails in the last like 10 minutes, and not so much so that the back half couldn't be similar to the book, but enough that. And I never know how I feel about that, because that only works for us.
Yeah.
Like, that's only a game for the people that have read it. You know what I mean? Like, I never know how I feel about that. Where, like, it's changes and you're playing with the with the audience that have read the material, but... Like, I guess that plays for a normal audience. I never know how I feel about playing games with the audience.
Well, and that's why you just have to get the whole thing and then decide on a case-by-case, because if we decide at the end of this that the story makes more sense and is a better story, or is at least as good as the original, then I don't know that you could really argue with it.
And I have no problem with... Like, I've liked... This half is good enough that if the second half is also good... Like, I'm fine with this being, like, Under the Red Hood. Where, like, this just supersedes, like if you want Long Halloween, here's the. It's not exactly the same as the book, but like if it's better, who cares? Like,
yeah,
I'm fine with this being the definitive version of this story, because the book's not that good to begin with. Yeah, I liked it. I think I liked it more than you did.
So far, I mean, I'll have to look at it again.
But it's because
some of it might have been. I don't know if like I just wasn't in the right mood for this today or what it was. But, like,
I'm also
it
not.
didn't.
I'm very much in a Superman mood right now, so this was not the.
And I have been in a Batman mood lately, but I'm telling you, and I don't mean to throw shade at the actual material too much for this, but I mean, it's 90 degrees outside. It's daylight until 9 p.m. This is not the right atmosphere
I
for
got
this
here at
movie
like
this year.
8:10 and it was still light.
It was still light outside. Yeah, it's just not the right time of year for a thing like this. I want to watch this in October. Maybe I would get invested more easily. But so I said earlier that I was not really into this until I could tell they were going their own way, and that's not me saying that like I need this to be a completely different story before I'm going to care. I mean, I want them to improve on the material, like I said, because I don't think the original book comes together at the end. Mm-hmm. But I don't need it to be gimmicky about it. Mm-hmm. I don't need to be a brand new character, whatever. But this the murderer. Mm-hmm. But interestingly, I didn't feel like I was really with it until I felt like the movie itself was
deviated
more. Well, I was just gonna say more. I think that is where it happens, but like. When the movie itself gets a little bit more energy and is excited to be there, like I said, it felt obligatory until it started going a different direction at the end from what we're used to. Mm-hmm. And so that's not me going, yay, it did that. It's like that's when the movie itself perked up. Mm-hmm. To me, that's what it felt like. Where it's like now suddenly it's the movie they wanted to make, but they had to get there, and they decided to make it 2 movies, so it's got to be stretched thin until it gets to that point.
But how much of
that's
that
what it felt like? I'm not sure.
But how much of that is just you knowing the material and not liking it?
Well,
like, is it actually stretched thin, or aside from the Chinatown stuff, which has no business being there, but aside from that, is it actually stretched thin, or is it just? It's that like 300 problem, where like. If you really love 300, the comic book, how often are you really going to go back to that movie because it's exactly the same thing?
But I was having execution issues with it up to that point. I mean,
there were certain dumb choices.
You watched it. You were sitting next to me. You know how much of this I wasn't really recollecting. Like, I haven't watched this in a while.
I guess that's true.
I didn't know I was going to watch this today, or I would have read the book beforehand. I was going to try to do that this afternoon, and I only got like an issue in, so I didn't remember a lot of this. So it's not just that I know this story really well, because I don't. Like, I think if I was, in fact, I would go as far as to say that if I was watching this, if this was my introduction to this material and I had never read the book, I would have been maybe even more bored than I was. I
don't know where it's going.
I didn't like the pacing. I didn't like some of the voice acting.
Some of the voice acting's bad. And some of it sounds unprofessional, which might be a COVID thing. We don't know.
Yeah, there was some miking stuff that was weird that I imagine you're right about, because I didn't think of that, and you said when I brought it up that I bet they had to record it, when they're in their houses.
Yeah, because you said it sounds like somebody recorded from the bathroom. Like they might have.
They might have.
I know there have been other anime productions where they literally did do that.
Yeah, there's this scene where everybody's outside, but it sounds like they're in an echoey hall or something, and he reminded me of the COVID thing. I was like, okay, well, I mean, I'll give him a pass on that, obviously, but. Some of the writing was a little juvenile here and there. It did have that year one thing a little bit in that there are things that just don't. And Jeff Loeb's writing is not the best in the first place, but I don't know that he's great for gangster fiction in the first place.
No, and I can't tell if they know that or not.
But and that's what I was going to say.
I don't know if they're making fun of the fact that he's clearly only seen The Godfather and nothing else.
Because they're really leaning into The Godfather stuff. There's even
I don't know
more
if it's making fun of the material or not.
But I was just, I was just giving evidence to what you're saying is that there's. They're even leaning more into the Godfather thing than he did, where it was clear that he had like a couple of influences and that was it. But it's a little bit of that year one thing where there's things that are clearly cliche but read okay in a comic book that once you start putting a voice on it, it seems even more trite than it did in the first place.
Well, and it's also like that book came out in 1995. If it was cliched in 1995,
it's triply cliched now.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't.
After Punisher and everything else, I don't know.
I didn't think it was as poorly paced as you did, but I don't know.
And I might feel better
like
about it.
I'm feeling
on a second
it, but
read.
Only on the condition that second half is. It is good enough that I am hoping the second half is good. It's not like Death of Superman where we got to the end of it and it was like,
I don't want any more of this.
Yeah, can we not? I'm not at can we not. I'm good with this. if the second half sucks, like, I won't watch it again. But if the second half rocks, like, I think this is good enough to be worth watching to get to the second half.
Yeah, fair enough.
Especially if some of the stuff that's in this is setting up stuff in the second half.
I'll give it a lukewarm green sign flip. If we turned it off 15 minutes before, like if that's where it ended, was before the stuff with Alberto and the boat and all that, I probably would be flipping red. But it was winning me over by that point. Can I also say that I think it does a really good job. I haven't thrown enough positives at this because there's more stuff I like that I haven't talked about. I like how it handles, to some, at least for the most part, I like how it handles like early Batman in his career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's that interesting thing where he says, I
didn't know I was going to have to be a detective, and at first I'm crying foul on that, and then
if you're making this the story of how Batman becomes a detective, that's kind of interesting.
When we get to a place where he thinks he's got it all figured out and he's wrong, I love that.
And that it justifies that it took a year for him to solve this mystery, and like this is his first big case. And, like, those are good decisions.
I really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if that's in the book or not. I don't think it is.
I can't remember either. Like I said, I will try to reread the book before we do the second part.
But yeah, so I enjoyed it. Well enough. Because I think we both started negative.
I think my sights were too high because I loved the first thing they made so much.
Well, both of them. Soul of the Dragon.
Soul of the Dragon is good. It's not my thing.
Is it the same writer?
It is the same writer.
No. I know Soul of the Dragon and Man of Tomorrow. I don't know about this.
No, I would have to look. It's right here. I'll check.
But I think we both started cold on this.
I think Tim Sheridan is that guy, isn't it? We looked this up before. I think that is him.
I think we both started cold on this, and I think I just turned a little bit earlier. Like you said, 10 minutes before the end. Like maybe I turned 20 minutes before the end. So I'm just overall more positive. But like I also started in not a great place with this. And
really?
Because like I said, we were making fun of this while we were watching it in a couple of places. We're like, that's dumb. Yep, right there. Man Tomorrow.
Yeah, I thought that was the guy.
Oh, he also wrote Curse of the 13th Ghost. That was terrible. Oh, I don't like this guy. If he wrote that, he probably also wrote Return to Zombie Island, which is one of the worst things ever made with Scooby-Doo on the title. Return to Zombie Island is an abomination.
I want to say we watched it together.
No, we watched Zombie Island, which is a classic. They did Return to Zombie Island.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Where they tried to say it wasn't really zombies the first time.
Oh, okay. I think you told me about that.
Awful. It's horrendous.
Great.
So I don't know what to do with that, because it's a sequel to The 13th Ghost, which does the same thing. It's a sequel to the series where there's magic and stuff in Scooby-Doo, and says, well, maybe it was not all magic. Velma's awful in those, because she's just like, magic's not real.
I mean, you never know why certain decisions get made, where it's like, is it the writing that's bad or the premise? Because if it's the premise, it might not have been his premise. You know what I mean? Like that man didn't necessarily walk into a room and say, let's make this. He might have been hired to do a job, but also he might just not be good for Scooby-Doo, but he gets DC
Superman
characters and knows how to write them. Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, the writing in this is not anything like as good, I don't think, for the most part.
But it's also the first time we're seeing him not do original material.
As Man of Tomorrow? Yeah.
And Soul of the Dragon. Like, that also is original material.
But there's some weird, and again, I don't know how much of it is him and how much of it is, mandates and things, but, like you just don't know. But there are weird choices in this, like, we don't have I Believe in Harvey Dent, and I don't know why, because that's a big major thematic crux in that book, but in this, we change it to I Believe in Gotham City. And I don't know why they did that. Well, that would be very strange, given that there are no fewer than 8 foreshadowing, really obvious Two-Face foreshadowing plays. There's at least one place where they cut his face off when he's off to the side like that. Like it's an episode of Star Trek the Animated Series.
And Batman makes him flip a coin. There's a lot of that stuff early on, which is where we were like, this is terrible. Like, all we're doing is just saying Harvey Dent becomes Two-Face.
And how many things have I watched that do this with Harvey Dent?
Everything.
Like, everything
with Harvey Dent.
Everything. Yeah. But this one almost as far as, 60s Batman kinds of puns. Yeah.
Almost puns.
We got punny with him.
Yep. So yeah, it's not great at the beginning, but I'm
they
won
did
over
all
enough
of
by the
that,
end.
and he's not Two-Face, that's crazy. And it would also be somewhat ironic if he didn't turn into Two-Face, because he's got such a thuggish voice. It was 20 minutes in before I got used to the fact that that guy was supposed to be Harvey Dent. He came on screen, and I'm like, oh, who's this thug guy? Oh, it's Harvey Dent. Okay.
Yeah, it's Josh Jamal, who is an okay actor. Like, he's fine, but like
his line deliveries are fine.
He's terrible
I don't know
at
that
voice
he's.
acting.
I don't know that he's.
And
right.
a lot of these people are. Whenever they get like real actors, they'll come in and do voice acting.
I don't even
It's
think
really
his
bad.
voice acting was bad. I just thought he was miscast.
Yeah, which is interesting because if you look at him, like if he was cast as Harvey Dent, you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Maybe not
Okay.
today, but like he's just a good looking guy. Like if you cast him as Harvey Dent, like I don't think you would like be like, why that guy? Like I think he would be a fine Harvey Dent.
Well, just listening to his voice, I mean, I've never seen that actor. I'm just picturing a man who's been punched in the nose 15 times. Like,
I don't think that's what he looks like, unless I'm confusing him with somebody else. But I'm pretty sure he's the dude from Transformers.
that man is a bouncer on the weekends. Like,
Yeah, he's not great. Which I guess could be a real problem next time. Like if he goes Two-Face, that could be a real problem. I didn't think of that. I was like, yeah, whatever. He's not a great Harvey Dent. Who cares? It's a Harvey Dent story.
I still say it should just be William Shatner every time now. But I'm not actually. I don't actually mean that. But I think that
You
might
say
be
that, and he'll get burned out like in like 2003 when like it was okay to say like they should just always cast Mark Hamill as the Joker, and like now it's like please stop, please never let him play that character ever again.
Even when he doesn't, it's still Mark Hamill.
Yep.
This movie, Mark Hamill's not in it, but he is.
Yep. Just stop. Just stop.
Quit it. Like, there's other ways to voice that. Troy Baker, you have voiced the Joker differently than this. Like, you also have carved out a spot and it had a little bit of Hamill.
And like, I don't.
This was 97% Hamill with a not very good laugh most of the time.
I don't love the Batman Joker, but I appreciate that it's different.
But I love that voice actor.
I'm so done with him.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because he has his Joker voice, which he never does again, and he has his normal speaking voice, and he has every black character in every animated thing, and I think it's so lazy. I want to see better for him, and I want to see like just other people get cast as black characters in animated things. Every time, especially if they're larger, if they're a black guy and they're larger, I'm like counting till they speak. I'm like, it's gonna be him. It's going to be that same voice. He never changes how his voice is.
His name was on the tip of my tongue. I know it, but yeah.
I really want better for him.
Kevin Richards?
I think that sounds right. I think it's like Kevin Richardson. Kevin Richardson, I really want him to get more diverse roles where he can do other things with his voice. Because he's just big black guy. Like in every animated thing. And I'm so tired of it. I'm ready to hear another voice coming out of big black guys. I'm ready for him to do something else.
He didn't voice Kingpin in the Spider-Man MTV show, did he?
No, that is actually...
Oh, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
They probably... I can't think of... Michael Clark Duncan.
That's actually Michael
Is that
Clark
actually
Duncan.
Michael Clark
It's
Duncan?
actually Michael. I actually rewatched that a couple of months ago for no reason.
That is some shoddy animation the first 2-3 episodes, man.
I mean, animation the whole way through.
Oh, I thought it got a little better.
Yeah, it did in 2006.
No, it was earlier than that.
It's 2021. No, I mean, if you watched it in 2006,
Okay.
it improved. In 2021, it's just the worst looking thing.
Yeah, but I mean, they
It's like
didn't...
cel-shaded reboot.
But what I remember is... What I remember is, in the first episode, there were no cars on streets, and by episode 4, they finally rendered a few cars. That's what I'm remembering.
That might be true, but I also know that that's one of those shows
That's
where,
an
like,
improvement.
episode 1 isn't episode 1.
Oh, okay.
Like, so it might not be an improvement. Like, it might just be, like, some episodes had better animation, or you know what I mean? Like,
oh, that's another thing that I was... Let me get back to this for 1 second. That was another thing that
took... Go anyways.
Yes, yeah, we gotta get going. That is a thing that took me out with this a little bit, was characters standing in backgrounds and not moving. There's too much of that in this. They're just cutting corners, and I appreciate
the Batmobile was bland.
Yeah.
Which might be, in fact, the design from that book, because while I think everything in that book is kind of instantly iconic, I do not remember the Batmobile.
Does he even drive it that much?
I think
He's on roofs so much. I
cannot remember the Batmobile in that book.
It's
I'm
probably
sure it appears,
not all
but...
sleek black like it is in this, but I don't remember.
Yeah,
maybe it is.
This is a boring Batmobile.
I am a lot more interested in seeing. I will say this: like, I was not real excited about this. I wanted to be excited about this, but it's just like Long Halloween. I read that a couple years ago again and didn't really care for it. But like, so I guess it's funny. I was expecting better than what I got from this, but was still not really excited about it. So it disappointed me a little bit. But then after the last 10 or 15 minutes, now I'm more excited to watch the second movie than I was to get this in the first place. So I mean, that's the best compliment I can give it, is that it does make me want to watch the sequel.
I think the sequel is a coin flip. It's either going to improve on the material.
Stop it! Just stop it with the Two-Face! I'm done with the Two-Face references, okay?
The sequel is either going to improve on the material, and this will be the better version of Long Halloween, or it's going to go, like, wild and crazy, and it's going to suck. Like, those are our two options for the next one. I don't actually think a faithful... It's going to be Gotham by
Gaslight all over again?
Yes. I don't actually think a sequel...
You think Gordon did it?
I don't actually think... Maybe. I don't actually think a faithful adaptation of the back half, now I'm thinking about it. Like, I think it's possible. I don't think we're going to get that. I think whatever we get next movie will be different, and it will either be good different or bad different.
Yeah, I agree. I have a prediction. The killer will turn out to be Barbara Gordon, because she is an added character.
6-year-old Barbara Gordon?
6-year-old Barbara Gordon is the murderer.
No, what if it's
Barbara Keane?
No, Jimmy Jr.
Oh, wait,
What if it's Jimmy Jr.?
They can win me over on that. Look, Eric, you can make anything work.
We just keep taking Scott Snyder stuff, but like not actually trying to do anything. Well, okay, we just keep doing Core the Owls, and we have completely, like, there was a time where like adapting Core the Owls would sound like a cool idea. Now it's all we do, and we've never done it well.
We can't even bring back Batman animated series and comics without doing it.
Nope, and I'm done with it because I'm so done with the Court of Owls because no one does it well. Like, those first, like, 8 issues are really creepy, and we've never been able to replicate that ever again. Just stop doing Court of the Owls.
And just even that story itself, by the end, was pretty flawed. Like,
I reread that a couple of months ago, and
it's convoluted at the end, man.
So I was like going through. I'm like, this is better than I remember. Maybe I'm wrong. And then I got to the last 2 issues, and it completely falls apart. Like it always does.
Yup.
Those last 2 issues suck.
But you know what? If they announce tomorrow they're adapting Black Mirror, I'd be kind of stoked. That would be. But
you know they will do it with Bruce Wayne. It won't be Dick Grayson because that requires too much explanation.
You know what though? Even if that were the case, if they handled, it doesn't have to be Dick Grayson necessarily. I mean, it would be a different story. You're not wrong. But if they handled the Jim Jr. stuff well enough, and it was a super creepy story, it needs to come out in October though.
Well, yeah. But I think you can get away with a lot of Batman just coming out in October.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, anyway, I'm liking this a little bit more as we're talking about it, and after the last couple.
I'm excited for the second part. Like that's, and I wasn't excited for this. So that's good.
And I agree, and I didn't even like this as much as you did. So there you go. All right, well, everybody, thanks a lot for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. We're going to be back with you as soon as we can after the next movie comes out. I'm going to be on a semi to full hiatus here pretty soon because my wife is about to deliver our twin teenage girls. That's not possible. Our twin girls. I don't know why I did that. In about 2.5, 3 weeks. So everything is up in the air here at Geekvolution, but we're going to post when we can. And Eric, thanks for coming over and watching this with me and talking about it. It was fun.
Yeah, it was.
And we will see you again next time. I was Captain Logan.
I was Eric.
Bye, folks.